Hi guys, this is James from Auto Finesse. Thank you for joining us once again for another of our fly on the wall detailing videos. Today we're going to be over the shoulder of Dan, one of our Academy detailers, as he goes through the process of carrying out an enhancement pre-sale detail on a rather rare Mini GP. As always, we're starting off by addressing the wheels. We do this because they're generally the grubbiest area of the vehicle. A quick squirt of our Revolution wheel soap into the bucket to add some lubricity. We then take our Imperial wheel cleaner and spray up the entire surface of the wheel, including the barrel and the face. We'll leave this to dwell for a moment before jet washing off to remove as much dirt as possible before we come into contact with the wheel. Treating wheels the same way we would bodywork, we'd first apply the cleaner and then rinse it off in the hope to remove as much dirt as possible before coming into contact with them. With the wheels and the wheel wells now thoroughly rinsed, we go and reapply our wheel cleaner to the face and barrel once more. We also take this opportunity to use some of our Verso all-purpose cleaner on the tyre walls to break down any old dressings and grime that's become ingrained there too. Starting work on the barrels, we start at a 12 o'clock position and work our way round in a clockwise manner. This is just a good reference point to know where we've gone and where we're going so that we don't miss any part of a wheel. Starting with the barrels, we'll go round in this manner. We'll also get behind the calipers and anywhere else using the brushes that fit the particular wheel design we're working with. Once we've done this, we'll take a detailing brush that's suited to the face design and we'll work into all of that detail as well to have a thoroughly clean wheel. With the wheel now clean, we go back to that tyre wall, reapplying the all-purpose cleaner and then using a dedicated brush to scrub that in to really remove any grime that's stuck on there. Now this will pay off later on in the detail. When we come to apply tyre dressings, they will look better, more even, they'll bond better too, meaning they'll be more durable. The wheel arches are also treated with an all-purpose cleaner and then given a good scrub through with a dedicated brush for that area as well. Again, this is one of those jobs that will really pay off in the final finish. You might not notice it so much now, but when a car's finished and the arches are well flushed and cleaned and dressed, it really does make the finish pop. With one final rinse, that's this corner complete. We'll repeat this process on the other three corners of the car, cleaning the wheels, the tyres and the arch wells all together as one job. We now turn our attention to an easily forgotten part of the vehicle, the engine bay. After a thorough rinse, we take our Eradicate engine bay cleaner and then apply it to all the paint, plastic and grubby areas under the bay. Now you'll notice at this point we're keeping away from the insulation. You don't want to get this area saturated or wet. It doesn't matter if you get a little bit of overspray on it, but you definitely don't want to go soaking it with your pressure washer. This is then agitated in with a detailing brush for maximum impact and cleaning power. With a final rinse, that's the engine bay cleaning process almost complete. Then for the final touch on the engine bay, a generous helping of our Dressel all-purpose water-based dressing. We can then close the bonnet and forget about this area till later on in the final stages of the detail. We can now turn our attention back to the exterior of the vehicle. First things first, we want to give the vehicle a thorough rinse down. This is to remove any loose debris and dirt before any of the other stages. There's no point in us wasting cleaning power of product on debris and dirt that can easily be removed with a simple rinse with water. Citrus Power Bug and Grime Remover is applied to the heavily soiled areas at the bottom of the vehicle, around the front where bugs gather and get splattered, and on the windscreen and mirror housings. Once left to dwell for around about 2 to 3 minutes, this is then rinsed off to remove the majority of dirt before we even come into contact with the vehicle. Now on to the next stage, everybody's favourite, it's snow foam time. Our avalanche snow foam is diluted at about 2 inches of snow foam in the bottom of the reservoir bottle and then topped up with clean pure water. We then apply this to the entire vehicle, from top to bottom. Now, some people will say you go from bottom to top to bottom. It really doesn't matter that much. You're just trying to get the product onto the vehicle, and the reason you use a snow foam is the foaming element of it allows the product to dwell on the vehicle longer, meaning you get more bite from a gentler product. So we don't need any harsh chemicals here that might degrade or deteriorate trim or bare aluminium trims and things like that. The snow foam's left to dwell for as long as possible without it drying out on the car. It's worth checking the glass because that's usually where it will dry out first. Once we're happy that it's been on there as long as possible, we'll then start rinsing. Again, top to bottom. We want to get the dirt from the car onto the floor. We don't want to rinse upwards because that means we'll be moving the dirt around, pushing it into gaps and crevices on the car, which could then potentially come out and get stuck under a wash mitt and start causing those unsightly swirls. And whilst we're going to go ahead and machine polish this car, we're still trying to minimise at every stage the potential for putting swirls and scratches into the finish. That's why we're so meticulous with trying to remove as much dirt as possible before coming into contact with any surface. And out come 2 buckets for that famous 2-bucket wash. Now they've both got water in at this point in time, and we add shampoo to just 1 bucket. We always set our buckets with the one with shampoo closest to the car and the rinse bucket behind. Taking the wash mitt, we'll go onto the vehicle with fresh wash solution. We'll wash in straight lines as the wind would go over a vehicle, starting on the cleanest areas and working our way down to the grubbiest parts. Now the whole reason for using a 2-bucket wash is you take the wash mitt and you rinse off any dirt you've got from the surface in the rinse bucket, then you take fresh solution back to the car from the front bucket that has your wash solution in. With the car washed, we can now give it one thorough last rinse. But the wash process isn't over yet. We've now got the wet decontamination stages to take place. The first of those will be removing the harshest of contaminants commonly found on vehicles. That is ferrous metal contamination. So we'll take our iron out decontamination remover and apply it to all surfaces of the car. Now, it doesn't matter if this goes on glass, trim or anywhere. However, you'll find most bonded contamination is actually bonded to the paint. Once this is applied, we also go that extra mile by agitating it in lightly and gently with a microfiber applicator or a foam applicator, just to get that extra bit of bite from it and make sure it's had a thorough decontamination. And that leads us on to the second stage of the decontamination process, and that is tar removal. Using our solvent-based tar remover Obliterate, we'll spray onto any areas that are suffering from tar splatter. What Obliterate does is, on contact, it will start to dissolve and loosen and soften any tar splatters. Again, you need to be quite careful when you're removing these, being that they're big particles. You can easily drag those across the surface and cause scratching and marring. So it's well worth soaking them up with product and then gently wiping them away. If the residue remains, just hit it again with the tar remover and go over the area again, rather than scrubbing with a finger or a thumb through a microfiber cloth. You'll regret that later on when it comes to the paint correction side. Now the wash mitt's out once more, and this is for the last time, we promise you. You need to wash down any areas you've used a solvent tar remover on. Now this just neutralises the solvents and stops them from melting your clay bar in the next stage, which is the clay bar treatment. Taking a full 200 gram clay bar, we put it in some warm water just to soften it up and then break off a manageable size piece. You're probably looking to break off around about 20% of the bar and then working it in to a disc with your thumbs. It will warm up and soften up as you start to work it. A clay lubricant glide is applied to the panel, and then the clay bar is glided across the paintwork in small, slow back and forward motions. Now what a clay bar does is, contrary to popular belief, it doesn't get into the pores of the paint or anything like that. It shaves off any contamination that's bonded to the paintwork, usually organic matter like tree sap. Now one final rinse and wash, and we can dry the car down, get it inside and get the paint correction process underway. Now with the car inside, we can start inspecting the paintwork and taping off any sensitive areas that we don't want the polish to go onto, like plastic trim, rubbers or any chrome surrounds or decals. Before we ever consider taking polisher to paint, we want to get a good idea of what's going on. So we take our paint depth reading gauge and we'll map out what's happening with the paint. Here we're getting quite high readings, which would indicate potentially the bonnet has been sprayed over time. It's no bad thing, it's just good for us to know what we're working with. Now, a trained detailer, more often than not, their eye will tell you more than any gauge in the world. But it's good just to have that backup. Go around it visually, see if you can spot anything untowards or an area that looks a different finish to something else around the car, and then you can take your paint depth gauge to confirm that, to find out if the part that's standing out to you maybe is original and the car's had a lot of paint, or if the thing that you're spotting is actually a repair of some sort. Now, everywhere else this car is around about where it should be. We'd expect somewhere around the 150 micron mark. There are some areas that are higher, but you've got to remember sometimes you're never getting the gauge perfectly on the surface every single time. So don't worry about the odd minor spike here and there. Look at the overall and the average on an area and take that. It's now time to get into the machine polishing stage of things. This car being a pre-sale detail, we are just going to give it a good enhancement, which in our eyes is knocking out the majority of the swirls so the vehicle visually looks better from sort of 3 to 5 foot. We're not going to get 100% perfection, we're going for a higher level enhancement. Here we're using our one-step compound and a medium polishing pad. Dan rathers to use a smaller machine on this bonnet purely because with a bigger pad and the curvature of this shaped panel, you can easily stall the bigger machines. Now, some people will want to go with a bigger machine on this, and again, it's personal preference. Use whatever gets the job done best for you and what you're most comfortable using. That's the most important thing. Dan soon finds the errors of his ways and understands he's bitten off more than he can chew with that little 3-inch pad, so steps it up to the bigger 5-inch pad with the same combo. Polishing pad, one-step compound, working in slow passes at around about a medium speed. Looking at it here, think he's around about the 4 or 5 speed mark on a DPX polisher. Now you'll notice the pass speed. This is very important, how fast he's moving the machine. Now, we wouldn't call this slow passing, this is around about the normal pace of pass you should be using. After 2 passes on each area of the bonnet with the 1-step compound and the medium polishing pad, it's time to inspect the finish. And we've actually got probably a little bit better finish than we were expecting here. That is kind of what we're looking for. Not every last mark is out, and that top area there we'll go and address and take out those scratches too, but for the most part we're happy with that as an enhancement. Our customer, the car dealer, rung us up and said he's actually got a new decal for the front of this car. This one was looking a little bit past its best. We don't know if it's been replaced at some point with a non-genuine part or what's gone on, but they've rung up and said they've managed to get one, so we can take that off and polish right up to the edge. So that was good news. Using a heat gun just to soften off the vinyl, we remove it, and then we'll take our obliterate tile remover and remove any glue residue that's left behind. Then it's back to the polishing. Something else that needed addressing was this carbon fibre rear spoiler. Now this is gloss carbon fibre, so you can kind of treat it like you would paintwork. It's got a clear coat on it so it can be polished, but don't make the mistake of thinking this will be the same type of clear coat or act the same as the paintwork will. More often than not, these are a little on the softer side, so if we were heavy correcting here, we'd probably have to pull it down a step or two, especially in terms of the pad selection. But we're just using our one-step compound and a medium polishing pad, so that will take care of this without a problem, and it won't leave any hologramming behind. We're pretty confident on that. Once we've done this, we'll then check the work. If it needs finishing down, we will finish it down. However, in this instance, it didn't need any further work or refining after 2 passes. We take a slightly different approach with the piano black areas on the exterior of this vehicle because they were super soft. Using a softer foam pad on the small flex machine, revitalised finishing compound, the number 3 compound is used, just to brighten these up and remove any swirling and hazing. With the polishing stages now complete, we can remove all of the masking tape from the exterior and give the gaps a quick dust down from any polishing compound residue. The hoover's out, so that means the first job on the interior is about to take place, and that will be a thorough vacuum of all the surfaces, working from the carpets to the seats, getting in all of the gaps and crevices we can. Now, we're not going to start ripping the interior out of this car or taking the seats out because it's really not grubby enough to warrant it. The mats are going to get a deep clean first. Using our total interior cleaner, we thoroughly spray up the entire surface before taking the interior brush and then scrubbing that in. You'll notice that we're paying particular attention to the trimming around the edge. That's because this velour trim has got really grubby over time, and it's actually an area a lot of people forget when they're cleaning mats. They'll do all the centre section and really go to town there, but they forget that trimming, and when you put them back in, they don't quite look perfect.
Just whenever you're ready. Carpet. Down.
Interior surfaces on this vehicle are in pretty good shape. I think it's had kind of a full valet at some point, so we just need to finish them off and put the icing on the cake. Using our Spritz interior quick detailer, all of the plastics are treated. We can also go over this painted silver stuff and also the dials and clocks. We then clean another area that a lot of people, well, they don't forget, but maybe they don't know how to clean perfectly, and this will really lift the interior of a car. The steering wheel. Again, total interior cleaner is used here. Think of this like an APC for the interior. It's good on all surfaces. Once it's sprayed up thoroughly, we then leave that to dwell before brushing in with one of our upholstery brushes. We can get into all the dials and gaps here, but it's important not to soak those switches. Try not to push the fluid into there, because unlike external electronic components, these components have not really been designed or manufactured thinking that they might get wet or get fluids on them over time, so be careful there. We can now start work on the leather upholstery of the vehicle using our hide cleaner, again an upholstery brush. This will be sprayed on and sprayed onto the brush and then agitated in to get into all of the detail and grain of the leather. Back onto the exterior now, and after a quick dust down, it's time to start applying the wax. In this instance, we're using our spirit wax because it's designed to bring out the best in metallic finishes. Now, I know some people are going to pop up in the comments and start asking why we didn't put a ceramic coat on this car. The reason being is we firmly believe if you're going for out and out looks, wax looks best. And this vehicle, being the low mileage example it is probably not going to live outside or become someone's daily driver, so it doesn't really need that extra level of durability that a ceramic coating offers. So we apply 3 lines down the bonnet and then work from left to right across, going through those lines, picking up fresh product as we go. This is the best way to get a complete even finish over the whole car. Now, a mistake we see a lot of people make is they start with the wax over to one side. Think of wax in your car like butter in your toast. Start in the middle and spread it out. There's no point in trying to apply a wax thick. All you're doing is creating more work for yourself. You want to get a nice, even, thin film across the whole surface. Then when you come back to buff it off, your job will be nice. With the vehicle nearly complete, we can start to put some of the finishing touches on the car. The vehicle has a lot of external plastic trim, so we're going to apply our revived trim dressing to that, let it soak in before buffing off to a nice natural even finish. We then apply satin tyre cream to those freshly cleaned tyre walls using a handy puck and a tyre applicator to give us a nice even natural looking new car sheen. Then it's time to go on to one of the final finishing pieces of any detail, the glass. Now the glass can really make or break a detail, and some people are good at it and some people were, well, not so good at it and leave smears. But we've got some top tips for you to help you get the best finish on glass. You'll see here that we use two cloths. One to clean. Now what this does is it soaks up most of the glass cleaner for you and also takes away any oil or grease residue that you've cleaned up. And then the second cloth is to kind of buff that finish up and get it 100%. We adopt this around the whole car, first starting on the windscreen, both inside and out we use the same method. Lo and behold, the finished results.